Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, the weekly segment in which I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. It's the Raw and Smackdown after Wrestlemania and there is a lot to discuss. But before I begin, I do want to talk one last time about my experience in Orlando this past weekend. I had a great time. It was an exhausting time, but it was also a lot of fun. Getting to work with D'Lo Brown and James Mitchell at WrestleCon was great. Getting to meet so many awesome fans over the course of the weekend at WrestleCon, at the Super Show, at Wrestlemania, at the airport, at restaurants. Everywhere we went, I was encountered by at least one or two fans who were really cool and really nice, and it was great to meet them in person. And of course, the internet darlings. So many great fans came to that. It was a hot crowd and it was a great show. You'll see footage from the internet darlings hopefully as early as next week, but it was a great experience doing that show, and everything else encompassing WrestleMania weekend was a fabulous time. Of course, I had a lot of fun at WrestleMania as well. If you want to get my thoughts on WrestleMania proper, I have my review video with Jay Biggs and my vlog that really kind of charts the whole day we had there, from the trying to go to Hogan's Beach shop to the show itself, WrestleMania, the crazy fan fighting that was happening. Don't worry, it was all in fun. It wasn't an actual brawl, but there was a lot of crazy stuff happening. So the links to those videos are going to pop up here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Moving on to Raw proper. After a great video package highlighting the Roman Reigns Undertaker match from the night before, we get endless Undertaker chants. It goes on for what feels like 5 minutes, then it starts to bleed into an Undertaker Roman sucks counter chant happening thing. Then Roman Reigns finally comes out, gets just the biggest standing boovation you've ever heard in your life. Then he spends the next 5 minutes trying to talk with the fans, chant him down. They say, "Fuck you, Roman, shut the fuck up," all these different vulgar chants at him. Forever, it seems. He just starts, every time he puts the mic up, just shower of boos. Every time he puts the mic up, shower of boos, more chanting. Then he finally says his line. This is what he says. "This is my yard now." Puts down the mic, walks away, music plays. That's all it took. It's, I think, one of the strongest promos he's ever done. Only 5 words, all it took. It was a really surreal segment. He said all he really needed to, and now, whether he's going to be like a tweener or just a full-fledged heel, I think this really sets the foundation for everything after that. Now there's all this heat on him from the fans for how dare he retire The Undertaker. They really need to run with this. In fact, I think every week for the next few weeks, he should just come out and just say those same 5 words. "This is my yard now." After a match, "This is my yard now." I think this is the best opportunity to do something really meaningful with Roman Reigns that fans can really get behind. And by get behind, I mean boo him vigorously. Tag Team Championships on the line as the returning Hardy Boys defend against Anderson and Gallows. Very clunky, awkwardly built opening intro sequence here where Anderson and Gallows come out by themselves. They get their own introduction. Then the Hardy Boys get introduced with this big fanfare. Oh, brand new returning champions. And then the Hardys come out separately. I've never seen that kind of structure of introductions before for wrestlers for a title match or otherwise. It was really weird. At one point, Jeff Hardy's on the outside. He jumps off the steps and hits Gallows, who's against the barricade. Gallows had all day to roll out of the way from that. I thought it was just funny how much he was selling there while Jeff did his thing where he runs back and then runs again to jump off the steps. But yeah, I think the Hardys, boy, like I said in my review of WrestleMania, they worked pretty hard this weekend. They worked WrestleCon on Friday, they worked Supercard of Honor on Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, Raw Monday. Boy, all they needed to do was go to SmackDown the next day in Orlando and have the full house. Jeff kicks out of the Boot of Doom by himself, no assistance from Matt, which I thought was interesting. Matt and Jeff each hit a Twist of Fate on Gallows. Jeff hits the Swanton and the Hardys win, and the fans are happy. Cruiserweight time. Neville taking on Mustafa Ali in a rematch from 205 Live a few weeks ago. I'll take their word for it. The real highlight of this match, unfortunately, was the fact that the crowd was clearly not into this match. They were far more interested in what was going on with the beach ball getting bounced around throughout the crowd, which I think is pretty disrespectful. I get it's the Raw after Mania, and it's a big party environment, you're supposed to have fun and stuff, but I mean, there's a match going on, and these guys had a really good match for, the short time they had. It was great action, and the fans just, they're bouncing beach ball around. Like, really, I think that was too much. Great springboard Spanish fly by Mustafa onto Neville from the top rope. That was great stuff. Ali misses the inverted 450. Neville goes for the red arrow. He teases the red arrow, but it's like, no, I did it at WrestleMania. That's all I needed to do. He gets down, puts in the rings of Saturn, and that's how he wins. Vince McMahon comes out to kick off the second hour and announces not a draft for next week, but rather a superstar shakeup, which leads me to believe it's not the same thing as a draft. Are they holding the actual draft later in the year like they did, it was in the summer of last year when they did the official draft. The superstar shakeup, people are speculating it's just going to be a series of trades, not so much a draft, which is kind of what the draft already kind of was. It's very confusing, and I don't know what exactly is happening there. But the point is, the superstar shakeup, it's kind of made both Raw and SmackDown this week kind of in a holding pattern, because obviously the big focus was on like debuts and returns for the most part for both shows, but also the fact the storylines they do have in place, they couldn't really progress too many of them because we don't know where a lot of these guys are going to end up this time next week. Vince names a new general manager for Raw since Foley is fired and Stephanie is out of commission after the table spot from WrestleMania. Teddy Long comes out and it basically steals R-Truth's gimmick. He comes out, he thinks he's the one who's going to be the GM, and Vince says, "It's not you," and Teddy goes, "My bad. Holla holla," and walks off. Basically, I guess in the world of WWE, black people are interchangeable. They can just do the same gimmick. It was R-Truth a while ago, now it's Teddy Long. Anyway, the real general manager for Raw is Kurt Angle, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. Can we talk for a minute about how profuse of a sweater Kurt Angle is? Good Lord, between the time when he was at the top of the ramp to when he made it into the middle of the ring to say hello to the fans, his suit jacket changed colors. That's how much of a sweater he is. He didn't say much in this opening segment because then later throughout the night, it would go backstage to him doing general manager things. He's unpacking his box with his props, like his little hat and his medals and things. I love this segment with him and Enzo and Cass. Like, it really shows his depth as a performer, because there was like the lighthearted stuff with him and Enzo and Cass. There was the more serious stuff when he was talking to Seth Rollins, and also as well as Jinder Mahal and Sami Zayn. He really ran the gamut, which is kind of the perfect encapsulation of Kurt Angle's career in WWE. So great stuff all around. I would have to say Kurt Angle as general manager is a really cool move. And, people have been speculating about this in the past since it was announced. Boy, wouldn't it be cool if they could build something up for a whole year leading to a return match at WrestleMania 34. That'd be something. The New Day come out and they're decked out all in their ice cream gimmick, which is kind of cool, but at the same time kind of off-putting, because if you look, especially on Big E, the drawing of melting ice cream, the kind of look of melting ice cream, looks like a bunch of like saggy ball sacks all over Big E's tights and all over Kofi's tights. It's not a very good look. Anyway, they come out and they issue an open challenge to any tag team. Out come the Revival. Dash and Dawson make their main roster debut, their much-awaited debut, and they kick over the pop cycle. That was hilarious, and they just beat the hell out of the New Day. They put the Shatter Machine on Xavier Woods for the win after Big E takes himself out doing the spear through the ropes attempt, and then they attack Kofi's ankle after the match itself, just lay waste to the New Day. A great arrival for the Revival. Women's tag team match as Bayley, Dana Brooke, and Sasha Banks take on Emma, Nia Jax, and Charlotte. Emma's back. It's great. She's not Emmalina anymore. The wait between Emmalina and Emma was so short compared between Emma and Emmalina, and it's a great reintroduction to her character. You saw it a lot in NXT, and you saw it very briefly on the main roster before she got hurt the last time. So, great reintroduction to Emma here. Good stuff. Sasha makes Charlotte tap in the ring clean again. Charlotte's been losing clean a lot. For someone who's supposed to be the top female heel in the division, she hasn't been looking that great lately. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what the long-term consequences of that are going to be, or if there's anything going on backstage. Who really knows for sure? But this is, it's been kind of a losing streak for Charlotte. Who knows where that's going to end up? She does get whomped by Nia Jax at the end after she takes her frustrations out on Nia Jax. So it's interesting now, because with the return of Dana Brooke in more of a full-time role after she was gone for so long, and with the return of Emma on the main roster, now it feels like the women's division on Raw feels a little more fleshed out, because for a while it was just the four women. It was Nia, it was Bayley, it was Sasha, it was Charlotte, and that was pretty much it. And before that, it was just Sasha and Charlotte. But now this is the most I think it's been fleshed out. It's pretty much on par just in terms of numbers now with the SmackDown women's division. So I think with Emma and Dana back now in a kind of a bigger capacity, this could lend to more variety in storylines. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman kick off the third hour of Raw. Heyman telling a bedtime story where he basically says that Goldberg is dead and dusted. He won't be around anymore. Goldberg pretty much confirms this on Raw Talk after the show. Heyman issues a challenge on behalf of Lesnar to Roman Reigns for that very night, but instead, Braun Strowman comes out, and it goes really quickly from very interesting and very intriguing to very You have Braun come out and says he wants to fight Brock Lesnar. Lesnar lays down his belt and tells Braun to cross it, and Braun walks away. And over the last few weeks, I just find myself kind of wondering, what is their plan with Braun Strowman? Because, you see him, he walked away from The Undertaker a few weeks ago before getting chokeslammed on the Go Home show. You see him walk away from Lesnar after challenging him to a fight. here, and it's just, what's the end game? I do want to see a Lesnar-Strowman match. I wish we saw that on Monday. I think it was very disappointing that they kind of built it, but at the same time, it's like, they try and build it up as Strowman picking his spots, but when you consider how often he's done it over a short time period, it kind of makes him look weak. And I get he's a heel, but he's supposed to be a monster heel, kind of like Brock Lesnar. So it just left kind of a weird taste in my mouth. Backstage, Chris Jericho puts the tip of Kevin Owens' finger on the list, but immediately following, the rest of Kevin Owens comes out. He and Samoa Joe jump Jericho, put him through a table, and he is out of action for the main event later on, and we'll talk about who replaces him in just a few minutes. Enzo and Cass taking on Sheamus and Cesaro in a number one contenders match for the tag titles. I forgot to mention this in my Mania review, but I just have to say how much I love the fact that Sheamus and Cesaro have matching outfits now in their entrance. They have the tearaway suit jackets and the shirts, and they've got matching tearaway kilts. I thought that was a great thing for them to have that nice. It's like kind of puts a feather in the cap of their evolution as a tag team, from like unwilling partners to like kind of frenemies, and now they're bros. I think that's just great. I love that evolution. The match ends when Enzo and Cass try the bada boom shakalaka. Sheamus brogue kicks Cass out of the ring, grabs Enzo and tosses him into an uppercut from Cesaro, and Sheamus and Cesaro win, and now we're going to see those guys take on the Hardy Boys at some point. Sami Zayn versus Jinder Mahal. We've seen this match before just a few weeks ago, and we're seeing it end the same way we saw it the last time, with a haluva kick by Sami Zayn. Main event time, Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe taking on Seth Rollins, and originally scheduled to be Chris Jericho, now Finn Balor. Finn makes his long-awaited return to the main roster. He's been cleared medically for some time. He was working the house show circuit. Fans wanted to see him back at Mania, but they held it off until the Raw after Mania. So now you have this interesting tag team between two guys who, the last time they were in the ring together, Rollins injured Balor and took him out of action for a long time. Two guys who are considered the future of the company, but who are both hampered by injury at some point in the last couple of years of their career. Fans doing the wave in this match. I'm like, really? Kind of the same thing as the beach ball. I think it's just, the wave to me is kind of a sign of boredom. The last time I remember seeing the wave, vividly remember seeing the wave, was I believe SummerSlam 2005. I think that was the year when it was JBL fighting Undertaker for the world title, and like people did not give a shit about that match, and then they did the wave there. And that was, I think, kind of a nice statement on like just the state of JBL's push at the time, and the fact people were really interested to see him as champion. But this was a match between four of the best talents you have on Raw, and four guys who really, for all intents and purposes, besides Roman Reigns, are at the top of that scene, and fans are doing the wave. And I don't know why. It's not like these guys are not getting used correctly. Anyway, besides the wave, which didn't honestly last that long, I'm getting worked up too much about it. Big flying spots by Rollins here. Balor looking good after being gone for so long. Balor hits Kevin Owens with the coup de grace to win the match for he and Seth Rollins. I really hope that they don't break these two up after the superstar shakeup next week, because I do want to see this thing between the two of them go somewhere. It's interesting to have the one-off tag team, but at the same time, with the history they've had, I do want to see more between these two. And I think the way they've built it up in commentary, I think they're going to allow us to see more of that. And I really hope that we do. SmackDown time. New WWE Champion Randy Orton comes out, says he is Bray's master now. Bray cuts a promo on the Titantron saying that he's going to challenge Orton to a rematch, specifically a House of Horrors match, whatever that is. Orton accepts the challenge. Bray Wyatt teleports in, jumps Orton from behind, but he is quickly thwarted. But at that point, Eric Rowan comes back, wearing a brand new mutilated sheep mask. Whether it be injury or storyline purposes, this has to be the 7th or 8th time I think Rowan has come back to Bray Wyatt. Boy, they're never going to give him a singles push, are they? I think it's so funny that Rowan comes out once again to try and help out Bray Wyatt. At this point, I think the Wyatt family really needs to start evolving. I mean, you had a bit of evolution when you added Braun Strowman, but they broke him off pretty quickly to do his own thing on Raw. And so now you had this revolving door of Harper and Rowan, Rowan and Harper. At some point, if they're going to keep the whole concept of the Wyatt family alive, I think it is time to bring in some new members. And there's a missed opportunity that happens later in the show, which I'll talk about, but I mean, that's the kind of gist I get with the Wyatts at this point. Women's Championship on the line as the new champ Naomi defends against the former champion Alexa Bliss. Pretty basic story told here. Alexa working the knee very aggressively. Naomi's knee, of course, is what kept her out of action for a few weeks, made her give up the championship last month. Naomi perseveres. She keeps fighting. She winds up putting Alexa in that devastating looking submission hold that she won the title with at WrestleMania. I believe a fan actually tweeted me. It's called the 39 stretch. If you're a fan of the SmackDown games for the PS2, I believe it first showed up there. But anyway, Alexa Bliss taps out and Naomi keeps the belt. Kurt Hawkins Owens comes out and issues an open challenge to anyone on the roster. He gives to the count of 10, and did someone say 10? Here comes Ty Dillinger making his debut on the SmackDown roster. The 10 chants are alive, and they're flowing strong here in this segment. Pretty short and sweet match. Ty Dillinger hits the tiebreaker for the win. Yay, Ty Dillinger. This is a very interesting segment. The Miz and Maurice come out. First of all, they're building the whole thing as the Miz and Maurice are going to challenge and call out John Cena and Nikki Bella, but instead it's the Miz and Maurice as John and Nikki. And of course, we see kind of more of a reprise of what we saw from the whole Total Bellas stuff in the previous 2 weeks on SmackDown. Miz doing more of that Robo Cena thing. I love the line, and I got what I wanted, a moment that makes me seem like a relatable human being. I got a big pop from the crowd, of course, in relation. They were talking about John Cena proposing to Nikki at WrestleMania. They say they're leaving WWE, and they're about to walk out of the ring. Then the live violinist enters, and we know what this means. He starts doing his little solo, and then wow, Shinsuke Nakamura debuts. He comes out on SmackDown. He's doing his whole dance and everything. Really great moment. And he chases Miz and Maurice. They just leave the ring. We don't see them ever again. Like, didn't you come out for some other reason? Here's the thing. Shinsuke comes out to his music, big ovation, stands there in the ring for a minute, and that's it. They just play his music and he walks away. Doesn't do anything. And I know in some cases less is more, but if you're going to have, all these other debuts and returns happening on Raw and SmackDown where people do get themselves in matches and scuffles and everything, wouldn't it be a great way to get Shinsuke over if he comes out, this big thing, and just kicks the Miz's face off, gives him an opponent right away for next week on SmackDown? Not saying it has to be a big feud, but give him something to do, just to make his presence felt. And it just seems weird to me that they would just show up there, say hello, and then that's it. And then Miz and Maurice just waft off into the ether somewhere. Like we never see them again. Intercontinental title on the line. Dean Ambrose defending against Baron Corbin in a rematch in a street fight that should have been their match at WrestleMania. I went back and I watched the match from the pre-show that I did not see live, and that match was okay, but this match way better, like in every respect. The match goes into the crowd early on. It goes to break, and then literally within 30 seconds, maybe less than that, after we come out of break, the ring is full of stuff, and they're in the ring, and then Ambrose gets slammed to the table. Like, wow, great reintroduction after the commercial break. Great stuff. Corbin is whipping Dean Ambrose with the belt. Dean Ambrose gets the belt back and hits Corbin. So he really lays into Corbin. Like, I think he almost hits him in the face a couple of times with the belt. Ambrose with the top rope elbow drop to the outside on Corbin through the table. That was a great spot. I think Corbin might have sold that, probably could have sold it a little bit longer, because he gets back in the ring. He tosses the chair at Ambrose. Ambrose is on the top rope. He gets crotched. He gets hit with the end of days, and that's it. And Baron Corbin wins the match, is the new Intercontinental Champion, which is a pretty big deal. Again, I really wish they had this match at WrestleMania. That would have made the pre-show far more interesting. Shane McMahon comes out to talk a little bit about the Superstar shakeup next week. AJ Styles comes out and cuts a promo saying he doesn't want to go anywhere because this is the house that AJ Styles built. Then he does a handshake with Shane McMahon, showing a mutual showing of respect. And that's pretty much it. If this is the way to kind of start an AJ Styles face turn, I think it could have been done with a little more pizzazz and a little more impact than this. I think the segment just kind of fell on the surface. The segment just kind of fell flat for me. But the more you look into it, it's like maybe this is the start of something more for AJ Styles. Main event time is Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan take on Randy Orton and Luke Harper. I really wish we got some kind of backstage segment during the show. I know it was a very stacked show, but I wish we got something to show more of this reluctant partnership, this new alliance between Orton and Harper, because they were part of the Wyatts. Then Harper left the family because of Randy Orton, and they had their little feud, and now they're partners here. I really wish we got just a little more character development between these two as they're going to face off, Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan. Not much to talk about in the match itself. Let's just go to the finish. Orton is on the attack against Wyatt. Wyatt uses teleport. It isn't very effective. This is the point you think, oh my gosh, are we going to get another new member of the Wyatt family? That'd be really nice. Instead, you just get Bray Wyatt teleporting himself a few yards out of the ring. He's just sitting there, doesn't really do anything, because then you got Eric Rowan standing there by himself. He gets hit with a super kick and then an RKO by Orton. The good guys win, and okie doke, this is not a good look for Bray between Sunday at WrestleMania when he's doing all the weird imagery, beaming down in the ring with the worms and the cockroaches and everything, and losing there so succinctly. And then you've got this whole thing where he's got the teleportation and he just basically does it to convenience himself ever so slightly, and allowing Rowan to get beat up. It doesn't make him look very effective. He has very ineffective magic skills at this point. And at one point I was so intrigued by what they were doing with Bray Wyatt, making him really intense and really scary with the whole Ashes thing and all that stuff. And now it's just like I feel we're at the point we were with Wyatt just like a year ago, where he was getting, made to look like a fool. And I don't want to say the sky is falling. I hate doing that. I hate being so like, oh my God, buried. But man, he had the 1.5 good months as champion and looking good there, and then all of a sudden, it's like not looking good against Orton. And I don't know where this is going to go, but it's, it could have gone better. I'd say the last few days for Bray Wyatt hadn't looked very effective. Time now for me to decide who won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. And folks, it's an easy choice this week as Raw wins by a lot. I know there is a SmackDown bias in this fan base and also in the fan base at large, but I'm just looking at it objectively. SmackDown got the shorter end of the stick when it came to debuts and returns and star power for after WrestleMania, and maybe we'll see some more stuff after the Superstar Shakeup next week. But for right now, I think Raw just looked stronger. It was just booked like a stronger show. They had more things, and I know it's kind of a temporary thing, but I'm looking at it from a week-to-week basis. The Reigns promo I thought was very strong in the way he reacted with the crowd. He even literally said, "I have him with the palm of my hand." So it was like, I think that was a win for Reigns. Kurt Angle, the whole show, him being announced as the new GM, his backstage stuff with Enzo and Cass and Jinder Mahal and Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, all great stuff. A great reintroduction to his character for younger fans who might not be familiar with his work. The Revival's debut was great, very impactful. Finn Balor's return, very exciting as well. The only real negative I had from the episode of Raw, besides Sami Zayn and Jinder Mahal, because you've seen that match before, it was the one real unoriginal thing from the whole show. Also, just Braun Strowman looking weak against Brock Lesnar. I don't think that was a good look for him. It doesn't make him look calculating when he backs away from Brock Lesnar after challenging him. It makes him look like a coward. It makes him look like a contrarian or a self-contrarian. But as far as SmackDown goes, SmackDown was a strong show as well. I loved Ty Dillinger's debut, as short and sweet as it was. The street fight with Corbin and Ambrose for the title was awesome. Shinsuke's debut, up until his music stopped, I thought was a very strong thing. But then everything after that, again, just him standing in the ring, standing there smiling, and that's the whole thing. I didn't get it. The finish of the main event left a bad taste in my mouth, just because it makes Bray look incredibly weak, on top of how his match at WrestleMania ended. The Shane and AJ segment, I'm kind of waffling on if it's a con or not. I'm not saying it's a pro, but I'm still kind of on the fence. Like, is it really bad? Because, it could plant the seeds for, a good AJ Styles face run. But just as a moment by itself, it was like, it's kind of a weird talky segment. So once again, my pick for this week goes to Raw. Even though there weren't a whole lot of storylines they were able to advance due to the Superstar Shakeup for next week, I think Raw had the bigger moments, and really the 3 hours flew by, especially thanks to DVR. Hello. But it was, I think, just a stronger show overall. There weren't as many weak points as there were on SmackDown, not as many questionable booking decisions. I think it was just a more entertaining show overall. Be sure to let me know what you thought of Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and don't forget to vote which show you thought won for the week here in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zayn, and I'll see you next time.